Okay, so welcome back, everyone. We lost a few people in the process of going to breakout rooms, but we do have still a good quorum. So we'll be curious to hear what came up in the discussion. Breakout room number one, we had Andrew, Angie, Katik, and Patch, and myself as an observer slash contributor. And room number two, we had Chris, Lisa, Michael, and Ren. I think Lisa had to excuse herself. So who would like to, oh no, she's back. So who would like to go first and share a little bit of a summary of what was the key theme that came up in your breakout room? Anyone, if anyone feel vocal enough to give a bit of an initiator summary of your breakout room.
I wasn't in there, so I'm going to volunteer room one.
Go, Michael.
No, I'm volunteering the other room because I wasn't in there.
No, thanks. That's not allowed. Classic Michael. Go.
No, I can go,
Lisa.
Matt, because
Thanks,
I
Lisa.
am in the breakout room that Michael's was in.
Okay.
So we had a discussion about those skills, and I sort of started by saying the one that I find hardest is being present. Because just in my job that I do a lot of different things, and so I'm coming from one call to another, which can be, completely different topics and those sorts of things. So being present in the discussions, context switching, getting my head into what I'm doing next can be challenging. So yeah, for me, being present is the hardest one out of all of those. I guess, what are they called? The skills, right?
Oh, complex skills, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Chris had some really interesting sort of observations in that, because he's working with, people that are A, on the other side of the world, and B, from very different sort of the post-Soviet culture. So he sort of was his challenge is about being reactive and trying not to be reactive and basically being able to remain sort of listening so that he can coach them on the way forward, and rather than react and just say, just go do it. So keeping emotionally balanced. And sort of interpreting what's going on, given he is working with people from very sort of different culture, So I thought that was really interesting, the dynamics of what Chris in his role, the dynamics of what he's sort of, I guess, interacting with. And then Michael was talking about that he found, if I got it right, Michael, to be positive meant that sometimes you're more emotional. You have to bring that emotional side to you. Whereas when you're being resilient, you end up being a bit more indifferent. Did I summarize that correctly? Hopefully I did.
Yeah, I find the self-management and the positive influence are reasonably tightly coupled.
Yes.
But
yes.
It's an inverse coupling. If I'm being resilient, I can come across as indifferent. But if I'm trying to have that positive influence, it's usually I'm passionate about it. I can be a little bit temperamental then.
Yeah. And Ram also agreed being present was challenging, both at work or even in personal situations. And then we just talked about different tips and techniques. Michael's talking about the 50-minute meeting to allow 10 minutes for context switching. So I like that. And the Pomodoro technique, where you have a timer and say, for the next 25 minutes, I'm just going to do this particular activity. So it was a good discussion.
Great summary. Thanks, Lisa. Chris, Michael now, because Chris and Ram, anything to add that you'd like to complement, something that you think will be relevant, share with the rest of the group?
Michael should name his segment, Excuse My Cat's Butt.
Yeah.
Here she comes now.
Oh, God. Oh,
She's part of the team, yes.
she is, isn't she? Hey?
Anything else, Chris? Is that all?
Well, while I was listening to you earlier, I've been struggling with this for a while. I was going to write something called "The Delivery is People, the Vehicle is Technology."
Mm.
And, I realized, I've done this so much that the thing that remains is the people. It's not the technology.
Mm-hmm.
If you build the people remain and continue to produce the good technology. If you focus on the technology, SAP goes away and Oracle comes in.
And I love Rem's point that focusing on the people, you end up delivering more, faster, better. The performance and output will increase, actually. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to room number 1. We have 7 minutes left, and I'd love to hear from each one of you what has been your one takeaway, one learning from today. So room number 1, who'd like to provide a bit of a summary of key insights, reflections on the things that were discussed? Don't speak all at once, please.
Guys, if you can hear me. So I personally was looking at the 6 points, the 6 characteristics, and I resonated with self-awareness versus being aware of others, in the sense that I like to feel as though I'm aware of my own capabilities, my own shortfalls, but I may be so to the point where I get too caught up in that and I start making assumptions about other people. So I think it's important to strike a balance and maintain that balance and consistently try to make sure you're on track with how you interact with other people. I mean, personally as well as in a professional context. That was my takeaway. Kartik, I know it might be difficult for you to speak. I think you agreed, and you are touching on the fact that because it's so subjective, it's important to establish some kind of guidelines within the team such that these characteristics can be focused on and progressed as a delivery continues. Andrew, I don't know, did you want to call out what you were saying? I didn't get a chance to jot that down.
Yeah, so what I was thinking was that all of these things are not static, so those 6, it depends on circumstance. It depends on the personalities of the people involved. So it's a fluid thing, and I think there's a lot of complexity there that we need to be mindful of at all times. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Andy. So with 5 minutes left, again, I feel that we're so privileged to have Rem here as well. I'd love to, give a chance to everyone to maybe spend, 60 seconds or less to have a really final reflection on, you invested 90 minutes of your precious time to be here. You said no to other things, so you could say yes to this. So what do you intend to do differently? What is different from you before this conversation and now? So perhaps one thing that you intend to do differently, or one learning, one really key takeaway. So I'll start with a volunteer, and then we'll go around the clock on my screen. So who would like to kick off in 60 seconds or less?
I can volunteer.
Thanks, Lisa.
I like the RAM conflict is natural. So what I would do, because I really do not like conflict, I think just being able to face into it more. That's what I learned, that's what I would like to do more of.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Leaning into healthy conflict. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next on my screen, I'll just call it out because we don't have time. Andy, you're next on my screen.
I think I'm going to be much more mindful of, the framework, especially at times of stress and difficulty, because it's extra challenging to be self-aware and aware of others when it comes to that. Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. Kartik.
Yeah, I think what I might take away was the complexity that comes with it. It's very challenging to consider all the different aspects. So my key takeaway is to consider all to be a bit more pragmatic in looking at different people's different cultures. And ensuring that the decisions get made with the right aspect, not just with having a bias.
Thank you. Being more aware of bias. Thanks, Kartik. Michael.
Where's that mute button gone? So I think for me, probably the key takeaway is that everyone views the relationship between these core emotional intelligence competencies differently. I have an inverse relationship on the self-management and positive influence. Others mentioned a direct relationship between self-awareness and self-management. And then there was also the mention of the inverse relationship on self-awareness and awareness of others. And I'm sure this is a very, very small sample group. If we went to more, we'd find all sorts of other relationships between them that we may not see individually.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Michael. Chris.
I guess I would say that for me, what I got out of this was almost like an incidental byproduct that's important for me, and that is you need a community, a sounding board that isn't your family and isn't your workmates. And I got more out of this conversation than I do out of most other things in my life, which is either my family or my work community.
Thanks so much, Chris. Just made my day. And I have to say, I had my own coaching supervision session earlier today, and the space for reflection can be so gratifying, right, and insightful. So I think that's what we're having here, space for reflecting and challenging each other and listen to each other and uncover those blind spots that we all have, I think. Pat.
Hey, I think my main takeaway is to instill growth from within the team. Make sure that the people within the team understand the importance of growth and influence each other in a positive way. Grow from the ground up.
Thanks, Pat. Rem.
Yeah, I learned a good one in the breakout from Michael that I'm going to try these speedy meetings, as he mentioned, the sort of 45 or 50-minute meetings, or 25, the short ones, to help with context switching, etc. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And I guess for me, it's the point Ram made about a sunk cost bias. Now, I heard that before, but it's such a good reminder, and embracing the fail fast. I think something that it's very applicable to me right now. So I'll keep that top of mind. So I think that was everyone. Is that right? Oh my God, look at that, 8:30. Perfection. Oh dear.
Well done,
okay. We're getting good on these, guys. Well done to you all. So we've done this. So I will share the pack probably by Friday the latest. So you have a little bit of information about Rahu, which is our next speaker, if you want to have a bit of a sneak peek. And the feedback survey, I think Michael will be sharing now. If you can take a couple of minutes to share your thoughts on what do you think we could do better, talking about blind spots, and what we did well, that would be fantastic. Especially I think Kartik and Pat, who are no first timers here. And other than that, just want to say a big thank you for your precious time, your energy. So I really appreciate you. Chris made my day with your comments. Good to have you back. I'm glad that you took a lot of value from our conversation. Thank you. Thanks so much, Rem, for your preparation, for your time, and for being here to the end. And everyone else, Kartik, Pat, the new newbies, and all the regulars as well, Andy, Lisa, Michael, my right-hand man. So thank you all. Have a good evening, and hope to see you in later this year in our upcoming roundtable.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Natalie. Thanks,
everyone.
Ryan.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.